Yeah, no, I just sent the same one out, but yeah, no, because we talked about it, so I've got it on my master list.
Okay.
Yep, we're all good now.
Ready?
Thank you. Good. I have a little festivity.
Okay, it's 4 o'clock. We'll call the December EIC meeting to order, and I will lead us in our invocation. God, we thank you for our abundant blessings living here, and for a time of year when we get to stop and be thankful and mindful of what you have provided us and the grace that we have received. And I thank you for everyone in this room, because these are people who want to make things better. And thank you for the kind of people that are working for the good. I thank you for all of the city staff that take care of us all on a daily basis, make sure we have water, make sure that we're protected, make sure that if we are in trouble that there's someone to respond. And we just thank you for the blessing of living here in the Hill Country. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I'll go ahead and take a volunteer for next month for invocation. That's my new, thing. I get ahead of it. It's my new thing. Don't all speak at once. Okay, thank you, Kyle. It's going to be in the minutes.
Okay. I will forget.
Well, now you're
Well,
hooked.
it's in the minutes, so, all right. Speaking of minutes, we need to, before we do that, we need to see if there is anyone that is here to speak to us on an item not on the agenda. Anybody signed up? I don't see
No
anyone.
signed up speakers.
Okay, just making sure. Item 3A, approval of the minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, please let me know by raising your hand. Motion passes. And on to monthly reports. Katie?
Right. Good afternoon, Chair Clarkson and members of the EIC. We have a newer presentation for you today. I believe that last time we were here, we shared with you that we were making some updates to our stakeholder reporting. So today I'm going to share on the screen with you what our new ZEC deck looks like. This was emailed to all of our stakeholders, including the EIC last Friday. So y'all should have an email that allows you to access this. And if for some reason you have troubles finding it, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Let's get our funny size mouse up here. So when you log into the ZEC deck, this is the dashboard screen that you're going to see. I'm actually going to scroll all the way to the bottom of the appendix so I can walk you guys through just a brief explainer video, and then we're just going to go through the ZEC deck. So what's ZEC? This is in the appendix at the bottom of your ZEC deck as well. But so what this is ZEC is an interactive board website. The company's aim is to end the misery of everything related to the board meeting. It just might end the misery of all meetings. But how to use your ZEC? You share your ZEC a few days before your meeting to get your materials out with viewers, so viewers have enough time to engage in advance of the meeting. By getting this information to them early and in an easy-to-consume format, the viewers get to comment in each section. And if we can get those tedious questions out of the way early, we can use the meeting to dive deep into the most important content in the sections during the live meeting, leaving time to plan your annual company-wide three-legged race. But what I'd like to do here is just show this brief video so that you guys know how to navigate the ZEC deck. escape, please? Thank you. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the top of the ZEC, and I'm going to walk you through each section. I'm not going to read it to you because that will be lengthy and boring, and you guys have access to this, so you're welcome to review this at your convenience. But at the top, you'll see that there's an executive director update. We do have back-end analytics, and when we review those analytics, so far, this is the section of the ZEC that most people are giving their attention to. But in the executive director update, this talks about what we've been doing over the last 30 days. It talks about our major wins, milestones, and achieved. It also links through, you can see here that this will link through to supporting documentation. So if anybody wants to go deeper into the subject, that's available to them. Or you can just read the summary. So you get to interact with it according to how far you want to go into this. So then we switch to a financial update. There's going to be a financial section that shows you a summary of our financials along with supporting financial reports. Budget versus actuals here. You can share thoughts and questions here. So you can kind of engage with it almost like social media. And your comments and questions will be viewable by other stakeholders on the board and also the staff. So that if it's an easy question that we can answer, it will save us time during the actual board meeting or presentation. Here's our business retention and expansion section. This year, you will get some basic labor market statistics and demographics. We also provide options to go look at the full report if you want to go deeper into that information, but this will give you more information about our community and Kerr County in general. Here's our Q1 business retention and expansion engagement, our November highlights. Over the past 6 weeks, BRE Plus has made 55 dial attempts, successfully contacted 33 individuals, completed 1 survey, and provided resources and coaching for 1 business. We also here, I'd like to draw your attention to this BRE Plus section of the appendix. In the appendix, we do have more information on how BRE Plus is contacting our business owners. We share the voicemail script that they leave if they don't reach the business owner. We share an example of a recorded phone call so you can hear what it sounds like when they do contact either the owner or staff member. And we also show you examples of the survey questions that we're looking to gather from BRE. Here are some in-house BRE projects that we have been working on. Again, I'd like to remind you that BRE Plus is not meant to be a replacement for the BRE efforts that we make at the KEDC. It is meant to be a supplement, and it allows us to give more hands-on attention to the companies that need extra resources that can't be covered in a basic phone call or an email. Here's our marketing, social, and PR metrics. This will show the November summary and also a year-end report for all of our marketing efforts, the metric for the channels that we've been on. Newsletters seems to be the most preferred platform by the folks that follow us. We have really good numbers on our newsletters. There we go. Let's go looking ahead to 2025. Again, then here's the appendix where you're going to find, you can see that the appendix is even larger than the actual presentation because there's just lots of supporting information in here. You can click these links, read the annual report. You can share your thoughts and questions. Here's the BRE Plus marketing collateral that I mentioned. You can dive deeper into this. We also have our formation documents, bylaws. So you can see our bylaws here if you ever have a question about how our organization operates and if we want to know more about, what if we made an amendment, whatnot. We posted some election insights in here that we got through the IEDC right after the November election. You can read the full report, but we actually have just put a summary up here for your convenience. This is the transition plan that's referenced earlier, our formation documents. These are our board appointments. All of our board members, Judge Rob Kelly was recently reappointed to the KEDC board, and so this will get updated for our presentation next month. We have some demographic information. mission, vision, beautiful promo video, policies and procedures. This is for board members. We are in the process of creating a personnel manual for staff at the KEDC, but these policies and procedures relate to the members of our board. And it's quite lengthy, so I'm going to keep scrolling. Ethics, delegation of duties, state of childcare agenda. That is happening tomorrow. I hope that y'all are going to be able to join us. I'm pleased to report that as of this afternoon, we had 99 folks registered to attend. So we're looking forward to a big event. Immediately following the EIC presentation, we are hosting a VIP dinner for some of our board members and some of our keynote speakers. But we're looking forward to a very productive and impactful day tomorrow. Labor market review, workforce solutions data. There's just lots of stuff in here. So if you really want to dive deep, there's lots of supporting information. And then the ZEC was the last thing included in the appendix. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
That's a great tool.
It is, it's amazing.
We're very excited about it.
Questions for Chief?
Katie, is that live as of right now?
Yes.
If I were to contact you, would you be able to give me more information about the program itself and a contact person for me?
Yeah. We can get you connected with someone in their customer service department.
This was fabulous.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Oh, quickly, I did want to introduce Chelsea in person. I know that you guys have seen her face on the screen in a previous presentation, but Chelsea Four is with me tonight, and she has been doing a great job helping us with the State of Childcare event, marketing events, and sponsorship. So
Thank you for being here.
Thank you all.
All right, we'll move on to item 4B.
So, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. We're going to start today with Habitat for Humanity. We've got two of the board members, Mr. Brett Hunter, Kevin Bernhardt, and Mary Campana here, and they're going to go over their progress so far on the Mariposa subdivision.
Right there is fine, right there. Unless you, oh wait, I guess if you want
Need
to have the clicker, then yeah, then I guess over here. We can move our next.
Thank you so much for just giving us a few minutes to give you all a status update on how our Mariposa attainable housing community is progressing. As you all know, the EIC really has been pivotal in enabling this attainable housing development. And so in the few short minutes that we have, we're going to give you a 30,000 big picture view of the overall attainable housing community. But we're also going to do a little bit of a deeper dive and let you know how we're progressing on the land development component of this project. And then Mary is also going to share with you just a few highlights when it comes to attainable housing. So before I go to the next slide, I want you to take a mental picture of that beautiful home in front of you. That is our prototype workforce house. That's our first house. It's on Gilmer Street. And if you think it's beautiful on the outside, if you look on the inside, it is absolutely stunning. So we're very, very excited about that. And I'll be speaking a little bit more about that, the importance of that house in just a moment. There we go. So what you see here is, don't worry, I'm not going to walk you through every single box. I don't know, Mr. Horton might, or Hortons might want to go through every box, but
No.
what you see is, this is our board tracker. And so we have a steering committee that meets on the last Monday of every month, and we have 4 teams that are focused on 4 very important components of this development. The first is land development, and I'm not going to steal any of Kevin's thunder. The second is home design, and we have a team that is focused on the architectural components, finding that right balance between beauty and cost feasibility so that we can achieve our goal of these homes being affordable. The sales and customer service team is focused on a couple of really key deliverables. One is to make sure that these homes go to deserving families that meet our income criteria and other qualifiers. And the second is to make sure that these homes stay affordable and attainable for many, many, many years to come. The third component is to make sure that we are identifying very low-cost ways for our future homeowners to afford these homes. And last but not least is capital planning and fundraising. So this team is focused on, as Habitat scales, so does our need to access working capital increases. And so that team is focused on finding very low-cost working capital, because if you think about it, over the last 3 years, Habitat has averaged about, in our community, about 5 homes per year, or we like to say 5 families per year. In the coming year, we're going to double our impact on the community, and then the year after that, we have the potential of tripling our annual contribution to the housing challenge that we have in our community. So just to orient you in terms of our overall status, the good news is timeline is green. We are absolutely on track. In fact, in many areas, we're ahead of schedule. For budget, we like to keep ourselves as a board, I'll call it productively paranoid. So that's a good thing. And we see some opportunities and frankly, a few risks, depending on how you look at it. And I'll wrap up my comments with those 3 key areas. But in terms of scope, we're very excited about all of the leading indicators that we're seeing going into this community. In the upper right-hand corner, you can see that our current estimates and the scope. So land development is $2.26 million, and I'll let Kevin update you on how we're progressing to that plan. Scope is 34 workforce homes and 10 what we call traditional homes, for a total of 44 homes in this community. I'll just focus on the workforce homes because that's really the innovative concept or part of really scaling up the construction of affordable homes in our community. Our target is to construct these homes for $170,000, so that's once the land is ready. What's our vertical costs? The sales price that we're targeting is $255,000 per home. And just based on similar appraisals for our homes in the Ma Jennings development, we believe that just based on the quality of construction and all of the features and of these homes that the appraisal would be easily $300,000 or higher per home. So in terms of home design, back to the Gilmer house, we started that house back in October, believe it or not, and here it is right in front of you. The reason that this home is important is because we wanted one home to really prototype all of our concepts and really dial it in so that when we do start scaling, we've got proven experience and frankly some lessons learned so we can make these future workforce homes even more beautiful. And our target is to put that home on the market in February. All indicators are that we'll probably beat that timeline by weeks or potentially even months. It's just progressing along that quickly. Our local contractors that we have used have just been fabulous partners and have really put together and constructed just a beautiful home. And then come June, once those lots are ready, the land development is complete in May. Our target is to start scaling, and homes 1 through, right now as a board, we're looking at 8 homes. Really, that's just a function of the amount of working capital that we feel comfortable with at this time. So there's a lot of variables, but right now, as a board, at a minimum, we're looking at 8 homes next year. And then the only other highlight that'll leave you with is just keeping it real. No project is ever perfect, and we do see a few risks that we're working through. One is the project is happening so quickly that given the contract with the EIC, we're actually going faster in the drawdown schedule may be a little bit inconsistent with what our obligations are to some of our contractors. And so I know Mary has had some dialogue with city leadership on just looking to see if there might be opportunity to accommodate the drawdown schedule with our actual schedule. So more to come on that. The second is the deed development to ensure sustained availability. This is super important for our board. We want to make sure, as I mentioned earlier, that these homes go to the right families and that these homes stay affordable and attainable. And so there's, without going into the details, there's been some really great work that we have leveraged in other communities throughout, Habitat communities throughout Texas, to where we have a line of sight to be able to, in the deed, keep these homes attainable for decades to come. So that's pretty exciting for our board. And then last but definitely not least is when you're launching all of these homes, there's the working capital. We're very motivated to find the lowest cost of capital possible so that we can keep these homes as affordable as possible. And so we're actually making good progress on finding some low-cost capital to fund those first homes. Once we start building those homes, the sales price less the vertical construction, that's where this project becomes even more and more sustainable. It starts to snowball. As we sell homes, that'll fund more future homes, and our reliance on working capital, at least in the short to medium term, will reduce over time. So I'll turn it over to Kevin. Do you want to, since we've got control, why don't you can give an update on the land development?
Yeah, so Kevin Bernhard, I'm Chair of the Land Development Committee. So just kind of overview, I mean, we're doing really well as far as schedule and progress. Haven't really had any weather days yet. Good contract team that's really moving through the cities. Alex is doing well out there as well, keeping up with us and watching us, making sure that we're doing everything correctly. So, and keeping pace. So all that's good. Want to thank y'all too. Like, we wouldn't be turning dirt without y'all partnering with us and making this a reality. So thank y'all for that. So as Brent kind of said, we're planning on hitting May to finish up our land development part and turn it over to the Housing Construction Committee and get them to start going vertical. And then just kind of progress, as you see, on the far left side is just what that 8 acres looked like before we started, right there at Weston Place and in between that and Bow Lane. And then the middle slide is going to be our first major portion of dirt work, which is mass grading and then cutting all the streets. So you can start to see the outline of the streets and the cul-de-sacs, the pass through on which I think is Bow Trail, that will actually go over into Bow Lane to connect those streets. Our detention pond has been cut, so you can kind of see all that in that middle slide. And then at the end, we've moved into, after mass grading and the streets have been cut, we've moved into our utility work. So we're starting to dig and bury all our utilities, water, electrical, and sewer. And then we're, again, moving through all this at a pretty good pace. Plan on being through burying utilities, hopefully through about February. Once that's done, we're laying all the dry pipe for KPUB. They're going to come in after us and install all the underground utility or the electrical after we get that installed. And after that, we're just going to be waiting for some warm enough weather to start paving. So again, it's moving pretty quick. Draw schedule, I think Mary has those numbers as far as where we are right now to date. I want to say it's 550 or so. And then as far as overall budget, I mean, we're going to be right on track. The good thing is we're not over, but I think we'll come in just right under that budget, and looks like we have what we need to get this taken care of.
So you said there's a retention pond on here. Where is that?
There is on the middle. If you look at the very middle of that slide, you'll see the cul-de-sac, and just north of that on the slide. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Okay. And then is that parking that's around the cul-de-sac? Where
No,
it's
these
all
will
kind
be
of
house
out?
lots
Oh, okay,
all through here
Oh, I
and
see.
around this cul-de-sac.
okay.
And then there'll be lots all on this side of this street and then down and around coming back. We'll have lots all right here, both sides of this street as well. So total of 44 lots, I think. We lost 3 with our detention pond. But that was our best cost prohibitive way of getting this passed, so. And that's all I have. If y'all have any questions on that, happy to answer any.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank y'all.
I'm just, one of the reasons that we're here is, oops, how do I go back one? Sorry, it kind of sounds like we're like kind of priming you to make an ask. We're not at all. We are just wanted to give an update and so that you guys could see how your dollars are in action and really celebrate the spirit of the Kerrville community. It has been amazing who has stepped up and helped us. And we just wanted to give you that good news to kind of end the year with. As you can see, this is not even finished, some of the upgrades that we're adding to the house. One thing, Celeste, I know it was a question back in the proposal process. We've added carports to the traditional workforce homes too. So we have garages and carports, so it really will blend. But our main focus is on affordability. One is long-term affordability. We want to pass that house when it sells to another income qualified family. And we're working with attorneys in Austin that have done this already and in Washington, Seattle. And so that's what we're really focused on. So that's just not happening. And then we'll have affordable product within our community. The other thing is we are designing a product that someone at 80% of the median family income and below can qualify for. That's what we're going to set our sales price for so that they're not spending more than 30% of their income on their housing. So that's how we'll kind of set those costs. And what's been good is our subcontractors have really stepped up and we have designed a product, even with upgrades, that's affordable that someone can qualify for. So that's exciting. And then I think that that's really in a nutshell where we are. We just wanted to give y'all good news that everything's moving forward and we're developing affordable housing that's going to be long-term. Do you have any questions?
The quality and product is just amazing. It's so exciting.
Yeah, it is very exciting.
Mary, I do have a question. I mean, I love the look of these houses. I love that we're building houses for workforce people that they can really enjoy and appreciate because they're so pretty and be good investments for them long term. My only question is, just thinking back historically to the mission of Habitat and people that were living in substandard housing, are we missing anybody maybe at a step or two below this 80% of MFI threshold?
I don't think so, because we are still doing the traditional, so we will, we'll do 2 to 3 of the traditional, which is the 60% and below. So we still have that price point that the workforce is that missing middle that can't afford the market rate, but could qualify for our house. Is that what you're,
Yes.
you know?
Thank you.
And I know some other developments are doing like 120, you know, going up to 120, but we're trying to get that group of people that just can't get there without this help. And there's a trade-off. The reason also that we're adding these upgrades is the workforce, there isn't sweat equity with it. It's built with subcontractors. And so I've got to build a product that someone's willing to take it with a deed restriction that it goes on to affordable forever. And so they've got to have an affordable mortgage product, and then they've got to have a high-quality home that they want to take that on. So that's why we're really focused on that difference, if that makes sense.
You said you'd gotten some more recent financing. What are those terms for this project?
Well, we just have been raising money for the vertical construction. We don't have, we're just talking with the Community Foundation of starting like an attainable housing fund that would be low interest, flexible loan kind of thing instead of going to a bank. And so we're kind of replicating that from some other areas. And we have some interest, the top employers in town are interested in doing that. So, yes.
I have a question about, when they resell and do they get the profit between what they paid and what the current 80% kind of
They'll get their equity that they put in it. And part of it is, that's the other piece of that long-term affordability. We've got to work on, does it cap at 2% a year that it goes up each year? And that's the piece that we're trying to work out.
And I mean, one of the things that we discussed, which I thought was really impactful when we were talking about this originally, is how these houses oftentimes become what people pass along to their relatives. And so that's also being addressed maybe in the deed so that there is still some benefit to that relative who receives the house and still can have some equity building up in that.
Yeah. And that's in our traditional Habitat has the same deed as they've had. And it's just that forgivable second lien that tapers off the longer you have it. And then the other deed restrictions has that in there. So by making it affordable, then they can keep it so that it does pass to the next generation. And they don't get priced out, property taxes and all of that.
Right. Thank you. I think it's an incredible project.
It's exciting, but we definitely can't do it without the community and EIC, and so we just wanted to say thank you.
Appreciate the update. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Okay. So I wanted to give you all just a quick update on the remainder of the projects that you have on the list, which is long. So let's start with the Quality of Life Bond projects. So if everybody remembers, it's Cali Theater, pool, the golf course, Granger McDonald Park, AC Shriner House, and KSP and Guadalupe Parks. Those are those miscellaneous park improvements that you all approved. And the total for that whole thing is $20 million. So the Cali Theater, we are finalizing the budget with Guido Construction. I think we mentioned that last time. Best name in construction business. So we're still working through the last phases of that. That bid came in at just under $3 million, so that was 2.99. So we've got Peter Lewis's fee on top of that. Part of that was paid for before these bond dollars were a part of the project. So there should be some savings in here. One of the discussions during council meetings was taking a look at additional scope that might be needed. And so I met with Jeffrey Brown at Playhouse 2000 and Peter Lewis, the architect, and said, bring me a scope for what you're talking about. There's a lot of approvals as a part of this process. So this was slated, this was approved by the board as an HVAC and a roof repair project. And so they've given me a list, and Peter's kind of sourcing some dollars. And so I'll bring stuff back to y'all for a discussion, but I've made sure everybody understands that, our scope is our scope. That's what everybody's agreed to pay for. And so all the rest of it can be a conversation. But that's as far as I would talk it through. The current contract has it scheduled for construction to start in March and to be complete by basically the end of July. with about a 30-day punch list, so middle of July, middle of August, which is in line with what we've talked through with Playhouse 2000, the tenant. And so everything's moving forward as it should be on that project, and hopefully with some considerable savings. Olympic pool. So we're in design. We had a budget review meeting this afternoon. This project is requiring quite a few alternates. So initially, the concept was to have a separate locker room for a swim team. There is no swim team component yet. That's all conceptual. And so we removed that piece. And if you look at that picture right there, essentially the swim team would go in that little vacant, or the locker room would go into that little vacant field right there where the shade structure is. So that's been removed as an alternate. And we have stadium seating set up for, to coincide with the swim team and the competitive swim. So a lot of those features of the competitive swim are there, but the extra niceties that would be a part of that, if there was a fully integrated swim program with Shriner, with KISD, those have had to be removed to be funded at a later date through a partnership if that was to happen. And so we're on budget. It's just,
The space is still gonna be available, is what you're saying, if
they just want to have a separate locker room, right? So if they have a swim meet, it's not going to be open to the public, or it will be a modified version, right? If they do it before there's some partnership agreement set up, so we can still accommodate swim meets
Yeah.
and all the rest of it. But
You're not reconfiguring the space.
we're tearing down most of it and redoing it, but it's not going to be added. That locker room's not going to be added. That square footage, right?
And no bleachers, you're taking out bleachers to watch a swim meet or something?
Ma'am,
Did you say that you're taking out the bleachers to watch a swim meet?
for now.
No.
Yeah, so it had to be. So we've got, you know, we're still going through the value engineering of it all. But those pieces that are directly related to, you know, again, a partnership with the schools for the swim teams, for now, those are going to be kind of phase 2 of this project.
Michael, I'm not necessarily a proponent of this, but just so I understand the way this works, if we had a surplus on the Callow Theater project and we wanted to use those excess, non-used budgeted funds from the Callow on the pool, we could do that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I think what, you absolutely can. And so, we should have, I think in 2 of the projects right now, it looks like we're going to have some savings. In in 3 of them, it looks like we're probably not going to have any savings. And the parks, I'll get to that one. The miscellaneous equipment, there might be 50 grand or so. But yeah, absolutely. And you don't have a timeline necessarily to spend it. So you have to spend 85% of the dollars, right? Which is 17.5 million. And so you're going to have, if there's an excess, if there's $1 million surplus at the end, you don't have to allocate it right away. Or if everybody's amenable to it, right, allocate it towards something like this, if this goes over, which I imagine this is going to go a little bit over, even as much as we're trying to trim it down, and we are.
I can't remember if y'all talked about, if you looked at those metal pools like they had for the Olympics. Was that looked at all for the possibility?
As far as the framework of the interior of it, the most cost-effective one is the one we're getting. So it's not going to be a implant that. It would have been more than what we have. Yes, ma'am. Does that answer your
So-
question?
Yeah, yeah.
It'll have to be
But
reworked.
What you said about you gotta spend 85%. So if it, on balance, comes in less than what was projected, could that money go back into EIC kind of general funds, or?
We'd have to look through the bond covenants, but essentially it says that within that 3-year time frame, you have to spend 85% of those funds. Can you take the remainder of those funds and kind of hold that as a surplus? I think me and Trina have to look at the covenants a little harder. before we can say yes or no to that. But to your point of reallocating it towards a different project, if there's savings in one and you want to put it to that, or you want to put it to a wholly separate parks project, quality of life project, you could do that as well. We'd have to amend the agreements and or bring new agreements to the table, so.
Yeah, I was just looking at our multi-year forecast, and it looks like it's
Oh, yeah,
fiscal 2028,
7.
8, before we can fund additional projects, so.
Yeah.
Just wondering if there's a way to get a little bit of dry powder back.
Let us dig into it a little bit more to make sure. Really, kind of what was great for me when I was talking about that with Trina and finance was, most of our projects require engineering. If it's over X dollars, it needs an engineer, and it's a really low threshold for most of them. It's $50,000 for most projects, and engineering is always months. It's never weeks of turnaround time. And so if we had to have 95% of those dollars spent, we couldn't have like a project that needed engineering that we had to run through the whole gamut before that 3 years was up. And so I think it at the very least it buys some breathing room as far as timing goes and being selective about what you'd like to choose. But we'll get back to you on what can happen with that 15%.
Michael, you feel like the scaled back design of the pool project is still gonna meet the needs?
Absolutely. It's fantastic. It's really great. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's all awesome. It's just everything is expensive. And they sort of, we throw it all out to see like, they're not Rolls Royce, but it's a really nice Toyota. It's a really good product and it's still going to be that way. I think there's just a few of those components where it's like, there is no public pool that doesn't have a partnership in Texas for swim teams that has an extra locker room. That really would have been an extra amenity that we currently don't need. Now it's piped for it. It's going to have all the conduit and ready to go. If and when they want to do it, it's going to be a plug and play kind of thing. But to meet budget, we couldn't see including that in. And so we've got about six alternates that we're looking at right now.
Are you gonna share the design with us once it's all?
I will. I don't want to, I hate bringing it to you and then it's going to change significantly. So we went through that last iteration today. And I think we've told them to start working on construction drawings, knowing that we still have a few small pieces to change, but they can get started on them. So once we get, I would say, next month, I should be able to give you some good iterations. Yeah. So again, this one's gonna be closed for 25, open back up in spring of 26, or summer of 26. And so we're gonna have a tight schedule on this one, and we're all gonna work real hard and get this thing open for summer of 26. All right, golf course, we had $4 million budgeted for it. XGD is the contractor for the greens and all the kind of golf course portions of the golf, as far as agronomy goes. Those folks have been mobilized and they've been out there since last week. Already dug up the greens on the back nine. And if you've heard, there's also right now some hogs who are digging up the golf course. So we've had to hire a trapper. We're going to be working with the county as well on a program that they have with UGRA to trap those hogs and get them out. This happened about 4 years ago, but it's absolutely horrible timing. Yeah, I'm going to go bow hunting at night. And y'all want to come with me, just feel free.
I guess timing wise, if we already got crews out there working on the golf course, it's, let them tear it up, let them fix it.
We can just, he didn't hear anything, and yeah. So we're gonna have quite a few contractors on this job. So we've got MC Fonseca doing the bridge work. So we've got XGD, they're the golf experts. They're gonna do the greens. They're working with us. And then MC Fonseca is the contractor for the bridges. So they're gonna be doing all that bridge replacement around. They'll be mobilized later this month, probably this week, I think. I don't know if it's this week. I don't think they're gonna be next week. Next week's Christmas, so yeah. This is a cool one. There's a green flush restroom, which is a restroom that is not tied to any utilities. So we fill it with water. It's a toilet that you would see at a national park. And this is going to be out way, way in the back of the golf course. And the reason we're doing this is because A, we don't have to have a fire road that will get back there to it. It's not plumbed into the utilities. It is considerably less of a pain. It's a whole lot easier to do it this way than to doing it the normal way. So there's a bathroom on hole number 2 that's going to be demolished because you don't need a bathroom on the second hole. If you got to go to the bathroom by hole 2, that's your problem, not ours. And that one gets vandalized a lot because it's right on the road edge. So it's a lot of reasons why that one's going to come down. So this will be all the way on the backside on hole 13.
So is it between the retention pond and the tee box there?
Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Adjacent to 15 green, I guess?
That's exactly right, between 15 and that. Yep. Completed, we're also looking at repairs to the clubhouse, so we're still getting quotes on that for plumbing and HVAC to repair some of that stuff. And then we already handled a bunch of smaller projects to the maintenance building. Concrete was poured out there. I think Stewart's crew is mobilizing to go pave it with asphalt here pretty soon. New fencing around it and several smaller projects right there. And right now we don't have a budget for the repairs to the clubhouse. And there's still kind of some unknowns because they're going to be out there and you never exactly know. But that budget's at 2.55. So you figure the plumbing, the HVAC is, I don't know. Call it $250,000 to be really, really conservative, and that's really expensive for a place that's that size. And you still have a considerable amount of savings to be reallocated or to be put elsewhere if we can, right? Or conversations to be brought back to y'all. So, so those are looking really good, which is great. And we overestimated those, but we just didn't know where that was going to land. So you've got 2 projects where you have a pretty good buffer. AC Shriner House, construction's currently underway. For those of you that had a chance to go to the groundbreaking, for those of you that didn't, they are demoing the inside of that thing. That is going to be every bit of $5.25 million, if not more. But right now it looks like we're on budget. We're okay. They've tore up some stuff. There's a few trusses that need to be reconfigured. And nothing. They're not too scared yet. We're meeting tomorrow to have kind of that meeting with them. But as far as it goes now, that project's as budgeted. And that one's going to be done. So, sorry, that project is 10/31 is the current deadline for them to be substantially complete out of there with that project and turn the keys over to the tenant. And Granger McDonald. So, you go down to that third bullet point. Hewitt Engineering has been working with us on that project, and so they came back to us with an initial design in October. We looked at the way that they had the boardwalk set up, and it kind of raised some concerns among the staff and UGRA too, because it would tear away the bank, cutting down all the trees and tearing away the bank. And so our take on it was no amount of pervious pavers could mitigate tearing up the bank of the river. You might as well put asphalt down. And so we had some clarifying conversations with the UGRC. And so Mr. Hewitt is updating that. And basically it's just going to push that boardwalk a little further out into the water so that bank will stay and be retained. A little bit of it has to come out because you're putting that concrete in, but we all knew that was going to happen. And it's replaced with concrete. So that project is still kind of working through the design phase. We should have some updated designs beginning of the year. Now, the only thing that's going to slow this project down is that the city is going to apply for a grant through Texas Parks and Wildlife for a boating access grant. And so that's up to $750,000. It's $250,000 for planning. We only spent, it's $150 is our budget for John Hewitt. And so we could potentially get reimbursed that portion of it and then $500,000 for construction. And so we want to make sure we were leveraging that ability. So that As far as timelines, Kyle, you had asked last time, what are the timelines for all these projects? That is the only one that sort of slows that down. If Parks and Wildlife, if the state tells us, no, you don't get the grant, then we can immediately have a timeline for you and just say, okay, we're gonna go because it's already funded. If they put their dollars towards it, that might affect the timing, and we'd be kind of on their clock as far as when we could start. But it's progressing along, and I think the design this is gonna be in front of the GRC board later this week. So Parks Board looked at it, said yes. Get GRC to say yes to it, and then I think we're on our way to finalizing a design, which is great. And I don't know about the budget yet. And KSP, those 2 pieces of equipment have been ordered. It's gonna take about 5 weeks to put each one in. It should be February or March when they're complete of next year. And the first one's gonna go in at KSP, and the second one's gonna go in at Guadalupe Park. And as a highlight, Parks Department put in a endowment at the Community Foundation, and they raised enough money for a wheelchair accessible swing to be put out at Guadalupe Park. So that's gonna be really cool. Those things are really neat. All right, so that's all the quality of life projects that you guys are funding right now as far as that bond. And we'll come back to you with answers, email you guys all what we find out about the bond covenants and any savings. Shriner, Center for Talent and Workforce Development. I did talk to Lucian and asked them to come in January to come give you kind of a more, kind of the same that Habitat gave for you today. So we'll have those folks come in January and kind of give you a bigger update on their project. Their Center for Talent and Workforce Development has a director. They are blowing and going. They have, I say started 6 programs that are either in process and students are there, or they have finalized the development already and they're waiting for enrollment on those projects or on those credentialings. They have 4 additional ones that are in development, and they're talking about 3 more. So 13 total programs right now in there. And then the second piece of it, the gym groundbreaking, it was held in August. They poured foundation right before Thanksgiving, and you should be getting a bill for the first part of it, which is about $500,000 coming your way pretty soon. So they're sending their bills on time, or their requests for payment, I guess. All right, and lastly, River Trail, we all talked about that. We're going to do the longer project and look for that transportation alternative grant funding. John Hewitt and a few others are helping us kind of work through all the easements, the exhibits. And so we feel like we're making good progress there. Lennar closed on their property, began their dirt work. So if you've been out by the middle school, you can see they're kind of turning dirt out there, getting everything ready. And then as another part of that Lennar project, really more the regional component to it, is the Travis Street Pump Project. So this one has been on y'all's books for a long time, right? Part of the reason it's been on your books for a long time is because TCEQ has to approve it. And so what you have right now is essentially, think of it as a water line that's flowing up the hill towards 534 on Travis Street. And there are booster pumps that they call them inline, right? So imagine it's just in line with, right, the line, and they just push that water up. Well, we want to upgrade those lines. So there's 2 250-gallon pumps, and we want to upgrade them to 2 600-gallon per minute pumps. TCEQ has to approve that, and it's an exception to have inline booster pumps. And so we felt very confident we already had those in place, that they would say yes to that, and they have said no. But they have said no, and they've said, well, you can do this, 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 and this. Lots of conditions involved. Or you can put in a ground storage tank. Interestingly enough, 1,500 feet away, but on a way up the hill and way back down the hill, is a 1.5 million gallon storage tank. They didn't tell us how big of a tank we needed. So what we're sourcing out now is, what size does that tank need to be? Does that need to be a 500-gallon tank that we can buy from down the street, or does it need to be a 20,000-gallon tank? Our contention is that we don't need it. One of the reasons we don't need it is because TTHMs which y'all have heard over and over again if you're on a couple of the boards, is a violation of TCEQ's rules if you have too many of them. And that's when water sits too long. And we have gotten some violations for those. And so we said, well, we don't need more storage tanks because that's another new place for us to have TCEQ violations. So we're trying to meet the spirit of one side and the other at the same time. It's a little bit, it's a little complicated. So one of the pieces that I wanted to clarify from staff and from engineering and from our consultant with Freeze and Nichols is, well, how far can we get into Lennar's development before these actually have to be in place? Because what we brought to you was, we need these things in order to go. If everybody who was on the board remembers that, there was a lot of urgency. We need it, we absolutely need it. Well, we do absolutely need it, but there's kind of a, okay, is it 100 homes? Is it 200 homes? How far is that thing? So we can get through phase 1 of Lennar's new project before this has to be in place. So we're still working through this with them, but I wanted to make y'all aware of that. That was kind of the issue for the stall, and that was the state requirements. And we still don't agree with them. Don't let Stuart start talking about it. But we are working through what their requirements say. Okay, sorry. Habitat for Humanity, y'all heard from Mary and her board today. James Avery is still waiting on TxDOT to get them the donation agreement, so that one's still kind of in the hopper. Megacrete.
How much is James Avery?
Oh gosh, y'all's was 160.
40 or 50, wasn't it?
I didn't see it on the cash flow projections.
165, so.
It's 160 or 165. I can't remember. It's in the 160 range. I don't know that it's on there yet.
I didn't see it on here.
It's not, because we haven't finalized the agreement. So we don't put it on the books until it's finalized, and we're waiting on them because we need that TxDOT donation agreement before we can turn it around. So yeah, assume that goes forward, which I think it will. Another 165 right there. All right. Megacretes, hopefully going to meet with Salvador next month. Their plans are still under review by TCEQ. And so they're the first plant of their kind in Texas. And so they were given an original permit application, and then TCEQ said, no, you're not a batch plant, you're something different. And so they essentially have a new permit that is unique to Megacrete. And so it's going to take a little time before that works through its process. So we're waiting on TCEQ on that one. I do have a question to them and have to review our contracts to make sure that we're all still in compliance with the timelines. And so if there are any changes, I'll bring those back to you in January for consideration.
How long was it going to take them to build and get up and going once everything is agreed on? Do you remember?
So I think 2 years for them to build the product, which is built in Europe and then shipped over. I'll have to talk to them about the timelines of the building itself, because the building's not that, it's I think all the internal components, right? But that's the longest piece, is the 2 years.
And have they started that? Are they waiting for that to happen?
They said they have. So yes, I think this is just this was a curveball for them, that TCEQ had sort of changed up the permitting. Everybody feels confident about it, but it's sort of out of everyone's hands once the state has it, so.
So the interesting thing about that is once they get up and going, they're going to impact that sales tax that's coming in, and the sales tax is up here is flat, there's no growth on it. So that's one of the things to look at in that 5-year plan, is that once they come online, they can make a fairly substantial difference in sales tax, over the first, as they get going.
Yes, ma'am. They will. It'll be great. And that is all I got. I'll try to make those shorter next time.
That's good.
We're doing a lot of things.
We are doing a lot of things.
I think it's
We are
good.
doing a lot.
Are we not getting the party lights over there by the parking garage? Or is that kicked down the road a ways?
It is kicked down the road the ways, so I don't know that they won't be here by Christmas. But if I look on my phone, I'll find an email from Mike Whitler that says they're working through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
good.
We'll get party lights. They won't be flashing, but they will be party lights. Yes.
Kerrville
Part of
party
the
lights.
project.
Thank you, that was a good update.
Okay, and I'll try to do, we'll have that each month, so.
Now we'll have financial update.
Good evening and happy holidays to everyone. On your agenda item, this said October financials. This is actually November financials. So it's just financial note. Okay, so right on to your statement of activities. Your November sales tax came in at $404,000. That was a 7.6% increase over last November. There was a 56,000 audit collections that came in with that and some prior period payments. But even if we take those out, we'll still be up 2%. So that's a good thing. Construction this month was up 43%. Wholesale trade was down 22%. Retail was up a little bit, and then information educational services, they more than doubled. So that kept us in the runnings. December sales tax came in last week. That is another $404,000. That's going to be a 4% increase over last December, but we did, on the preliminary report, it does show there's some future period payments in there. So back and forth, back and forth. Your next revenue down is your interest income, and that was $103,000 for the month. That is both your operational pool accounts and short-term investments and also your revenue bonds together. Operationals was $26,000 and the revenue bonds was $77,000, if you wanted to dissect that. And down to your expenditure section, $17,000 for City of Kerrville contract, debt service payments of $213,000, excuse me. And then you'll see that on investment purchases, we returned $64,000. That's because we transferred over $2 million to buy a commercial paper, not knowing what the discount was at the time. We just need to get the money transferred over so we can make the purchase. And then it came in, you buy commercial paper at a discount, so you buy it for less than what the par will be when it matures. So we just gave it back to your pool account. And then down to your projects, Habitat for Humanity, Mariposa, $113,000, your golf course improvements, $2,600, and then the Olympic pool improvements of $43,000.
Trina, can we, just real quick, so there wasn't an ask from Habitat, but I assume that that is gonna be an ask, because if you look at the breakdowns for the division of the payments for Habitat, we have it set for 1.16 to start in fiscal year 26, so that wouldn't be till October of next year before that would get dispersed, and I think we have that in your contract that way. So I would bet the way that they're going, that they'll be done before then. And I don't think Habitat's gonna have enough bandwidth to pay all that out necessarily. So there probably would be an ask to have the agreement amended and pay it out sooner.
Timing change.
Just it's a timing change, and I don't, me and Trina are gonna take a look at it, but the way we have it budgeted, I think it should be okay to pay it out earlier. It's not gonna affect that bottom line for fiscal year 26. It's still gonna be that $1,079,000. But I would assume that that's gonna come as an ask, the way that they're going.
All right, so change in net position for the month of November was $182,000. Okay. This here is just your cash flow updated with activity that's actually happening. So your ending cash balance for November, including pools or operational and revenue bonds, is $22.2 million. And I have those separated here on the next page. And then your columns to the right are the remaining fiscal year 25 stuff. I did not add in 26 projections at the moment. I know you asked for that, so I'll try to get those started January for you. Okay, here is your financial analysis, and I did separate those cash balances for you so you can see your operating cash and investments you have out there is $9.1 million, and then your revenue bonds, the short-term investments, and the pool account has $19.9 million. So at this time, we've only purchased one short-term investment with your revenue bonds. Just kind of want to see how these projects were moving and stuff, but you have a lot out there right now. I think at the moment, 6 million, kind of 7 million. 2, 4, 6, 8 million. We haven't invested that much, but we're trying to capitalize on the market right now. So we'll keep watching that. I definitely do have in the plans for, as far as cash flow, when one matures, we'll be trying to reinvest, so just to keep the investment income rolling. All right, your bottom chart is your sales tax comparisons, and then over to the right is your projects remaining commitments, and those are separated out also as you requested.
We need to confirm the downtown utility streetscapes numbers, but I think we should be able to return that $69,000 back to y'all. I'll double check with Mike Whitler over at K-Pub, but I think we're done on our end, and I'm pretty sure they're done on their end as far as invoicing goes, so a little bit should be coming back.
Any questions for those reports? All right, and this is your 5-year cash flow. Ms. Hammond, I will take into consideration the Mega Crete sales tax. See if I can dig into their projections, if they have any out there for us. So things to note on this that were adjusted were your fiscal year 25 sales tax. We did reduce the proposed budget by $157,000, which was a 3% decrease from the prior 2 years. So we're now at $5,104,000. And yes, we just remained flat just to take a conservative approach on that. One thing to note here in your expenditure section, on your professional services, that is a 4% increase year over year on your City of Kerrville contract, but we also included in those numbers your arbitrage rebate calculations. So as long as we're holding on to these revenue bond monies, you will be obligated to pay for that professional service to calculate what our liability would be each year. That's about $3,500. And then down to your project section, you'll see those 2 darker highlights there. Those were earlier on, we had a little bit higher potential project allotments there, $1 million and $1.5 million. We reduced that so that we can keep that cash balance pretty decent. So EIC doesn't have a threshold per se, or fund balance minimum, but we try to fall in line with what our general fund, City of Kerrville's general fund does. 15 to 25% is the Government Finance Officers Association recommendation. So if you take a look at fiscal year 25, your total expenditures is $6.58 million. So 25% of that will be a 1.6% cash balance that you would want to maintain. And we're well over that for the moment, but as you can see going out, that as projects start being paid, it's going to reduce. But as expenditures reduce, your requirement reduces also. So I think we're okay for now with these allotments that we have plugged in here, but we just want to keep watch of that. Also, one thing to keep in mind is in the instance that you ever do issue another debt obligation, Ann had mentioned debt service coverage ratio of at least 1.5 times your annual debt service payment. So because we set aside the maximum payment over the last, for the 20-year bond payment history, the 1.5 million, we already set it aside. So that's kind of covered already. But in the instance that they were looking at our finances, again, that's something we want to keep in mind. We want to keep our cash balances kind of at that level.
Trina, at some point, does that $1.5 million revenue bond reserve drop off?
It's going to be the life of the bond, the 20 years, and if at any time we drop below that 1.5 times debt service coverage ratio, they could require us to really truly put that to the side as a true liability, can't touch, restricted funds in the worst case if anything was to happen. So we already have it set aside and we're taking that into account. But it will come back to you in 20 years.
But if we were to, let's see, if we were to stay way above that ratio, would that funding be, we would be able to go into that if it was needed?
Yes, the cash balances would be unrestricted, down to that minimum of the 1.5 million. So anything above that, it would be fair game to do what you need to with. I believe that when we closed on the bonds, we were like at a 3.5 times debt coverage ratio. So we were in pretty good standing, and we had about a $4.8 million cash balance at the time.
So I think from the staff standpoint, at least from my chair, as y'all look at that fiscal year 27 projection of $1,079,000, so we get approached from to fund things, and one of the things that's out there right now is a request to fund about $800,000 in a trail that's kind of between Shriner and Olympic and the elementary school. And when I look at that, I'm like, that would put you guys down to $200,000.
Yeah.
And so what I think would be helpful for us is to say, do you want us to, where does the threshold lie right now? Because, for fiscal year 26 and up until the start of 27, really,
It's very tight.
there's not a whole lot of bandwidth necessarily. And so, we can simplify some of the conversations to say, hey, this has to wait until, a little while, being 18 months or something like that, see how everything shakes out, or I'll do what y'all tell me, right? So you do have $1 million, you don't have a fund balance requirement. It's not the general fund, it's not the city council. Our advice is to keep it, at least have some in the bank, but it'll just help us with the conversations out in the public on where we think that discussion will go.
If I'm reading this right, I think we've got basically a 3-year window of time that really don't have any funds to address new projects. And I think it's real likely that there's gonna be some important projects that we would ordinarily really want to fund. And so, kind of go back to our conversation earlier, if it's permitted under the bond covenants for us to utilize some surplus bond funds for basically whatever other grants we would want to do, not just quality of life necessarily, but to basically put that back into our reserves to be able to do some grants over the next 3 years. I think that'd be real important. I mean, otherwise, I think we're gonna be sitting on our hands and are gonna have some really hard no's to make on some projects that could really do some good in the community. So if there's a way for us to capture some funds, it's not gonna be huge profile or huge dollars like we've done the last couple of years, but I mean, even having an extra million or two, I think could come in really handy.
I mean, that was one of the things that we talked about when we were looking at Shriner, in the importance of that project is to know that we were gonna be lean for a few years, but that we would have some funds to do some of the smaller kinds of things.
So, I mean, I think that, that Michael's obviously getting asked, has gotten at least a conversation, and there will be more to follow, and so he's probably in a position of wanting to project to the person he's speaking to what the board's feeling is, and how we want to look at that, and what we want. Do we want to say, do we want him to say yes, but at this time, what the board is wanting to do is just to get those projects lined up and to, that it may be a couple of years before funding's available. What kind of direction, because, Michael's really trying to pass on to the people, they're not coming to us, they're going to him, but we're the board. So how can we direct him as far as people coming to the city asking or potential EIC funds?
Well, I think you need to temper their expectations with reality.
I always do.
Yeah, they just need to know that we've committed to an awful lot of projects, and it's gonna be probably 2026 2027, I mean, we get up closer to 2 million, it looks like, based on these projections by 2027, but even that's pretty lean for us. But if, like Greg was saying, if we can pull some of those surplus funds from that bond back into the fund, then maybe we have some opportunity to do some things. I mean, we'll just kind of have to see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't broke ground on the theater roof yet, right? Don't know where that's gonna go, and, yeah, for sure.
Is there a threshold of asks that we want, to be considering? Or is it just, we're totally off the table now?
Kim, I feel like until we really understand better about what we can spend, it's hard. I mean,
Yeah.
if you just base it on looking at this,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think anything except, 100,000 or below
Mhm.
projects are probably out of the question. What I'd be interested in is, number one, let's find out about the bond covenants for the 15%, up to 15%. To see whether there's any ability to tap some of that. And then secondly, Trina, I'd love to see exactly how that, bond covenant is written about the debt service coverage ratio, so that we can understand, is that, based on just the gross sales tax revenue divided by the bond debt service, or is it, how exactly is that calculated, so we can figure out how likely is, I mean, we're being pretty conservative on not projecting growth in, sales tax revenue. But I think most of us probably feel pretty confident that it's gonna be at least flat. So if we're at a 2.5 or 3 times debt service coverage based on where it is now, and we know we're not gonna be taking on any more bond debt, that's probably a pretty good indication that we're never gonna get that phone call that says, you're in default, you gotta come up with $1.5 million in a reserve account that's gotta be formally set aside.
Yeah.
So maybe that makes us a little bit more confident in being able to potentially, for the right situation, utilize some of that 1.5 million. So I think those are really the two sources potentially that we could look to. If something came up that was really important, that we felt like was something we really wanted to do, that would kind of be, some money that could be tapped into over the next 3 years.
Yes, sir, understood. Yeah, good on that.
So for now, we're trying to get a better handle on the actuals of what we predict
Sure.
to spend.
Actuals of our predictions.
The actuals of our predictions, actualizing our predictions. That makes perfect sense.
Got it.
I mean, it seems to me like our rock bottom for right now would be that 1.5.
I hear you, man.
Have cash reserves of
Break the law.
3.5, right? And I think if we're ever called, we would have that, or.
We do have that.
That's already
We
included in
have-
your
we
bottom
do
line.
have that.
Yeah, we do
Yeah,
have
we,
that.
we do have that. Well, that's true.
They've already got that pulled out.
So based on the likelihood of our debt service ratio, are we willing to tap into that, basically? But in order to know that, we just need to see what we can potentially get back from the bond, and what that looks like.
Yeah, so I think so we'll look at the bond covenants, bring that back. The unknown will be where the projects are lying in relation to their budgets, right? And so what will be available, so hopefully there'll be $1.5 million to talk through. It might be $500,000, but even $500,000's, considerable when you have $1 million balance, right? So I think we can start bringing that back to you. At the very least, we can get you that in January, what our interpretation of the bond covenants look like, and where that restricted funds, what do they really think about that? Because I think if we were in previous towns I was in, where it was really fluctuating and you weren't sure if sales tax was coming through the door at all, they would say, no, park $1.5 million there and have it there for 20 years, right? But I think we're a steady, good customer, and, they might look at us a little differently. We can dig into all that.
Thank you. Anything else before we move on? Okay, thank you. Drew?
Good afternoon. Drew Paxton, just wanted to give kind of an update on the, excuse me, the comprehensive plan update. We've had one public engagement meeting in October. We've had with Freese and Nichols several stakeholder meetings with some of their specific stakeholder groups. Had a community interest group. They've met with Schreiner University, met with Kerrville ISD. In January, they're actually going to meet with a student group, kind of see what their look of future is in the next 25, 30 years. And then we'll have a public meeting and downtown advisory committee meeting and comprehensive plan advisory committee meeting on January 22nd. So the public meeting will be at 6 o'clock at the Arcadia Theater to look at some of their preliminary outlook on the small area plan for downtown and the small area plan for Nimitz Lake, and present that to the public and get some feedback if they've kind of dialed into the right direction or if they need to tweak some of those small area plans.
Is that different than what we saw in October?
Yes, yeah, it'll be the next step of progression. So they took that October feedback and they're working through that. Actually, some of that work's being done this week with them. They're doing some internal design work on those small area plans, and that'll be presented in January. So I'd encourage you guys to attend in January. Bring your family, bring your friends. Again, it is public engagement, so it'll be an interactive, similar setup as October. They'll give about a 30-minute presentation of what they've worked on, and then let the community go through the different boards and stations. Any questions?
Please show up, make your voice heard, tell your neighbors.
Tell your neighbors, tell your friends.
The more people show up, the less likely people think it's the staff's idea about projects coming through the doors. Because we really want that to be the community's vision. And the more people show up, the better that is.
All right, thank you very much.
So I'm trying to remember what kind of publicity you did with the one in October. Did y'all want more people than what showed up?
I would love more people. It was, I think that was a good turnout. Certainly everyone there was actively engaged. The more the merrier. As we saw with the 2018 plan, or the comprehensive plan in 2018, some of those meetings had more attendance than that one. Some of them were pretty on par with that meeting. The online survey that we did early fall, late summer, we had about 427 responses, which is actually pretty good for a community our size. So I think we're getting good response. We're going to continue kind of radio spots, Kerrville Lead, the paper. I've sent it out to a lot of different community bulletin boards and newsletters, the chamber groups across the county. If you have any suggestions on how to reach folks, I'm open ears. So we're going to reach out to
Facebook posts. is only
Facebook posts, Instagram, Twitter, city website. We've got a contact now with the Historic Downtown Business Association. They're kind of revamping their membership. So they're going to help spread that out downtown even farther than we reached so far.
What was the date and time of that again?
January 22nd at 6 o'clock. And y'all are welcome to attend the downtown meeting. That'll be at 1 o'clock in the council chambers. The comprehensive plan committee will be at 4 o'clock in the council chambers. And then that public meeting is 6 o'clock at the Arcadia.
So downtown was at 1 o'clock, and then what was the 4 o'clock one?
The comprehensive plan advisory committee, it's our planning and zoning commission, but they're looking at the overall comp plan.
Okay.
Okay.
If you have any community bulletin boards, I've got some flyers that I can send out, kind of the save the date flyer and website link, QR code, so people can follow along with the progress.
Send me one,
I sure can.
that'd be great.
I'll send it to the whole board. Yes, we videoed the last one. I believe it's posted on the city's YouTube channel. So it'll also
Wait a
be
second.
videoed and publicized.
If you're on the lead anytime soon and you want to mention it, don't, you know, I'm not going to hold it against you.
All right, thank you very much.
Drew.
Thanks, Drew.
Okay. Item 6A. Michael, tell us your ideas and thoughts on that.
I wanted to see, now that we've told you you don't have any money, if you'd give me $1,200 to spend. So this is a budgeted item that we have in the general fund. This is part of my, my travel, each year. So I go to a conference called ICSC Red River. It's, they call it a deal-making conference. It's a lot of brokers, it's a lot of Blue Blazers and brokers and developers and shopping mall owners. The Culpeppers will be there, who are the owners of the Kerrville Hills Mall. And so I always spend some time talking to them, but that's not the target audience. It's everybody else. It's the, you know, who are those retailers that people have been talking to me about and talking to the community about who want to come to Kerrville, and
Bring more sales tax?
it's getting our names out there. So I go every year. It's funded through the general fund, and so I just, you know, I looked through the kind of the administrative services contract. Is that in there? And it's sort of is, it's sort of not. And I was like, it's really sort of an economic development component. So I was like, well, let me come ask, and I'll just bring it up. No harm, no foul. Say no, we're broke. I get it, but it's a retail. It's dedicated towards the retail component and bringing sales tax into town.
We've put 10,000
Right.
in our budget for.
You do have that money in there. So now, last year we didn't spend any of it. So the other piece I need to send you is, are there some trainings that you all want to go to? You know, oh gosh, Texas, TEDC has sales tax, like kind of one-day conferences in San Antonio. They'll have them in Houston, et cetera. So we can send you all to that. We did put money in there for that. There's a larger TML conference in Lost Pines every year in Bastrop, and they do a day and a half. The comptroller's there, a lot of lawyers, EDC lawyers, and they'll kind of go through scenarios. Here's what's coming up in the legislature, or here's what's changed, and just kind of, it's a good way to meet folks who are in your positions, or just, you know, network with those folks. And so last year we didn't avail ourselves to any of it, and so I thought maybe I'd carve out a little bit for my training and leave y'all with 8,800 left if you want. And again, it's already funded in the general fund, so it was just kind of, you know, does it fit better here? I will turn it over. You're not going to offend me if you say no, by the way.
I don't have an issue with it.
I don't either.
I move that we approve it.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please. Raise your hand. All right, you got
I
it.
got specific stuff. Julie
You're worth
Davis.
$1,200 to us.
Bring us
Yeah.
back $1,200 with the sales tax.
I will. Julie Davis, when I got here, she goes, I want a Dutch Brothers coffee. And I'd love to say it was me, but, you know, I talked to them, but they came. And really a lot of it nowadays is are you talking to them? Are you on the top of their list of calls? Because that's how, lazy, but that's how it works. If you're on the top 5 of that 100 pile of cities that, you know, Dutch Brothers Coffee is at, that helps just, you know, just being on their mind. So I keep trying to call Topgolf, but they won't come.
To who?
I do call them once a month, but they won't.
Oh, I don't want to talk golf.
All right. Okay, so we need to talk about our next 2 meetings and look at dates.
So Keisha and I proposed the 10th and the January 13th and February 10th. So that's
Okay.
the week earlier. Last year was a little problematic because we had all those projects coming down and the sales tax bond and all the rest of it. But this year it's a little lighter, so we didn't feel like it was going to be much of an issue to have it the week
Okay.
earlier, if y'all are up for it.
January 13th. Any issues with that?
I
I'm
have a
I'm not,
conflict, but
I'm not here either.
Gonna look at moving it to the 4th? And that's a council week, that makes it
The
harder on you
4th
guys.
is, no, we
6th?
can if you want, or we could just wait until
The
February.
4th week, I mean.
Oh,
How many people know they can't make it in January on the 13th? I heard 2. Okay, and we try to, well, let's see, the 13th, that's still a council week, so what about,
You don't have to have it on a Monday as well. That's just, you usually have it allotted, so.
you wanna look at the week of, maybe moving it to Thursday of the normal week?
I'm out that
Is there
whole
anything
week.
in January that we absolutely have to meet
That
about?
would be the,
I can email you all, and me and Trina can look up the covenants on those. We had talked to Shriner about them presenting, but they can present in February. I mean, that
you mean
project's,
canceling in January altogether?
Yeah, just
Okay,
skip-
I
yeah,
mean, there's not projects
right,
coming down that you're gonna have to authorize. And we really are too early on in any of the construction
Okay.
for some of those projects to know where the savings are gonna be aligned. So really, we can just email you,
okay.
you know,
Is
the
everybody okay with
summary.
that? We'll,
I'm good with it.
okay,
You know, cancel it?
cancel January, and then let's look at February 10th. Fine for me.
I have Arcadia board meetings on those days.
Oh, okay,
Second Mondays.
on the second Mondays.
But
I'm good.
I can miss it if I have to.
We could go back to our regular week in February would be the 17th. We can look at
That's President's Day.
right, so we can look at another day that week, like the following day, Tuesday, or that
I
Wednesday.
don't have anything conflicting the rest of that week.
Okay, so if we kept it on the week of the 17th, but we moved it to a different day, that might be
I wanna try for what about the Tuesday?
Tuesday, the 18th? Does that look okay to
That's fine with me,
everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that
At
Yeah.
4 o'clock.
at 4 o'clock.
Same time.
So
Yep.
we'll cancel January, 4 o'clock, Tuesday, February 18th.
All right, so what I'll do for January is I'll just email everybody a report. Here's what's going on. Here's where the projects are updated. We can
Perfect.
send out we can send everything out. We just won't meet.
Okay, sounds good. Any other announcements or items for future agendas or anything else to consider before we end the meeting today? Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
A happy
Happy
and
New
safe
Year.
holiday, everybody, and we will see you in February. We're adjourned.
Awesome. Thank y'all.